Hello guys, so today we'll see how we can create a CSV file. Basically what we'll do is we'll fetch the records from the database and export it to CSV file using the SpringBatch. So I've selected the language as Java and Maven as a project type with the Spring Boot version as 3.4.4. I've given the group name, artifact ID and all that stuff. Java version I've selected is Java 21 and the dependency I've added is Spring JPA, Spring Batch, Spring Web, and Oracle, since we will be using the Oracle database. Next, we will click on generate. So it will create a Spring Batch project, which we will import in the IntelliJ. So the project has been created. So here is the project. So let's place the project here. And I am extracting the zip file. So our project is ready. Now I will import this in the IntelliJ IDEA. So the project is now imported. So what we'll do is let's say we have one table in the database, employee table. So we will pull the record from this table and export in the CSV file. So first of all, I'm creating one entity class, and let me select the project type as Java. Yeah. Okay, it is already selected as Java 21 from here, so no need to add any other change. Now I will create one package called entity. Now we have the employee table, so let's create the employee entity, which would be JP entity. So @entity class @table, and our table name is employee. Now we have employee ID, so this would be our primary key. Next we have the first name and last name. And I'm giving the column name which is present in our database. First underscore name, same for the last name. Now I will create the getters and setters for this. So I've selected getters and setters for this. Okay, so we have our entity class ready. Now next task is to create the configuration class. So I'm creating a config class. Now here I'm creating a SpringBatch config class. So this class will basically have the configuration for our batch file, for our batch. So I'm giving a configuration annotation. Now there are some of the classes which we will require, that is the private job repository, private platform transaction manager, and a data source, since we will be using Oracle as a database. Also we would need some properties in the application.properties so that our application can connect to the database. So for that we will add this property, basic properties. It is having the URL, username and the password and the driver. So now we will create our job. So for creating a job, it would be we will create a bean of type job, which would be of type job. So public job. Now let's say it is our job database to CSV job. Okay. So it would be from the job builder. We need to provide job name. So it would be, let's say we have the same name, database to CSV job, and we need to pass the repository here. It would be a metadata repository. Now next need to provide the starting step. So we will create one step now. So let's first create one step. Public step. Let me name it as export step. So for creating the step, we will use the step builder. So return new step builder. Again, the same way we need to provide the name. So let's say I'm giving the name as export step, and we'll provide it as a repository here. Now we need to provide the chunk size. Chunk size is basically how many records would be read and processed and written into the database. It would be in a chunk. Let's say our database is having 100 records, and we want to process like read 10 records, process it, and write it to the database. Then we will provide the chunk size as 10. And we need to provide it platform transaction manager here. Now the first step would be to read the data from the database. So we would need a reader. So first let's create a reader. So for reading the records from the database, we will be using JdbcCursorItemReader. So let's create that public JdbcCursorItemReader, and our employee entity, like the record would be pull out from the database and map to the employee class. So let's name it as reader. And now let's create the JdbcCursorItemReader. Reader is equal to new JdbcCursorItemReader. Now we need to provide the data source, from which data source it would read. So I have provided data source here. Now we need to provide the SQL query. So let's provide the query here. Let's say we are selecting employee ID, first name, and last name. So these are the three columns we will be selecting from the database. So I am providing this as a query here. Simple till now. Now we need to provide a row mapper. Row mapper, what it will do is it will map the result from the database row to the the employee entity. So here I will create employee. Employee is equal to new employee. Employee dot set employee ID. It would be result set dot get long. It would be employee ID. Employee dot set first name. Rs dot set string. It would be first name. Employee dot set last name. Sorry, it would be rs dot get string, and it would be last name here. Now we'll return the employee from here. So we have the reader configuration done. So I will provide the reader as here. So we have the data from the database, which will be provided using the reader. Now we need a writer which will create the CSV file for us. So let's create a writer. For writing, we will be having flat file item writer. Okay, so I'm creating a new bean of type flat file item writer. Again, the same employee class we'll using here. Okay, so now let's create a flat file item writer. Now first we will set out where the files should be created. So it will be set resources, new file item resources, sorry, file system resources. Here we will provide the path where the CSV would be created. So let's say we will be creating here. So I'm providing this path, and the file name would be employee.csv. Okay. Now next we'll need a bin wrapper field extractor. So what it will do is it will extract the data from the employee and put it in the CSV file. So for that we need this. Okay. So here we need to provide out what are our fields name. So it will be like set names, and we will pass a string array. So we have employee ID, first name, last name. So it will be employee ID, first name, and last name. Next we need to provide a separator. So it will be delimiter line aggregator. New delimiter line aggregator, and we will set the comma as a separator. So delimiter dot set delimiter, we will pass it comma. And also we will pass the field extractor which we have created just above. So it will be field aggregator, and we will set this whole thing in the flat file item writer, and we will return the flat file item writer. So we have the writer ready now. So we will provide the writer here, and we are almost done now. Here in the chunk we need to pass it out like employee comma employee. So the batch application would be no like we'll be having the employee from the reader and the writer. So we have the job ready. Now it's time to run this job. So let's run this job. So I'm going here and running the job. We are expected the file should be created in the export directory. So let's see. Just a minute, it will be running. Yeah, so the job has been started. Yeah, so the job has been completed. We can see in the logs. Now let's see if the file is being created. So this was the location. You see one CSV file has been created here. If we open it using the notepad, we can see all the records has been exported from the database. We can see in the database we have the 13 records, and the 13 records has been exported this CSV file as well. So thank you guys.